Hi, hope you're doing well. So today I'm going to talk about a very sensitive topic. Actually, it's a topic which is controversial. You may not like some of my views on this topic, so you may want to even avoid the video. Unless you are very interested in this topic, you may want to even avoid it. It's about whether a bank can sue the regulator. It certainly can actually, but we will talk about it more in the context of what has happened to Paytm, the fintech measure in India. Right, it has a payment bank subsidiary, which has been kind of a banned, right, complete ban. Although it's not still clear as to whether it's completely banned or there are some temporary restrictions are in place. But it's a big blow to the fintech measure, and I'm going to give my view as to whether Paytm can actually take the RBI to court and fight a case there, right? It's quite possible actually. Unfortunately, not many organizations, many banks have done that in India, but in the developed world, these things have happened. More recently, this has happened in Netherlands, where one of the fintech has gone ahead with filing a case against the regulator, the central regulator, the DNB, which is the banking regulator here in Netherlands, and against a penalty, a financial penalty, and it actually won the case, right? And it was related to a very similar sort of issue that Paytm is in, which is the compliance issue, right? There were so many compliance issues related to Paytm. This fintech in Netherlands, which was also fined for compliance issue, actually went ahead with filing a case against the regulators and won the case. And that was a big news actually in the financial service world in Europe. Actually, it happened very recently. It happened last year, right? So I'm going to tell you as to whether that is possible in India. Of course, there are many challenges, right? Regulation in Europe is very different from that in India, right? It's a lot more bureaucratic in India, and there is political interference, a lot of political interference in India compared to that in Europe or even in the US. And I think we can argue from both sides actually. Just to as a disclaimer, let me tell you that I am not a shareholder of Paytm, so I don't have any reasons to say for it, against it. I always believe that fintechs will struggle actually to challenge the big organizations, so I do not therefore invest in the fintechs, simply because I don't believe that technology is the biggest challenge for banking. I don't believe in that philosophy. I think banking is more about risk and compliance. It has very little to do with technology, although technology does help a lot, but it cannot completely disrupt banking just by having good technology. And big banks can always have good technology also. They may be a bit behind, but they will always catch up, so they will never be challenged by the fintechs. Anyway, let's come to the topic, right? So RBI went ahead with putting a restriction on the banking activities of Paytm payment bank some couple of weeks back. And what happened was that the stock price went down by, I think, 60%, if I'm not wrong, 60-70% already. And there is a panic actually. People are withdrawing money from this payment bank. There's so many questions arise as to whether this action was needed at all. Was it done properly? Was there proper communications? A lot of the questions can be asked. I personally did not like the way RBI took the action. I do not know as to whether the actions are, the compliance issues are too material, to be honest. Maybe yes, maybe no. I do not know. In fact, RBI hasn't really shared things in detail as to where Paytm went wrong. There were some, reports in the media, but nothing really came from RBI. Neither Paytm has also shared this view. In fact, in the which is conference call with the analysts, they said that Paytm management said that they do not know more than what is known to the public. That is quite strange actually, because every time you have an audit report, the first thing to be done by the regulator, and it is done in many other jurisdictions, for instance, in Europe, that you first discuss this with the direct party, the direct the bank that is associated with that. It's a conflicting view. RBI is saying that we have shared our results, but Paytm says we haven't really received the final sort of audit findings, which is not a surprise in my view, because there was no ultimatum. I'm not sure if there was any ultimatum given to Paytm based on these audit findings, whether a sufficient amount of time was given to Paytm to address these issues. So compliance issue can happen everywhere. There is no bank in the world who can guarantee that there is no compliance issue there. KYC issue, money laundering. Tell me just one bank in the world that can just confirm that there is no money laundering happening there, right? It's impossible, right? So to what extent it is, what is the materiality of the issue is unclear as to whether the issues were so too big or they were not, right? And especially in fintech firms, the chances of compliance issue can be a bit more, right? Because there is it's not a brick and mortar sort of a bank, right? Where just customer come and the bank manager will review the details about the customers. The KYC process is a bit more physical, in-person KYC. So that is a bit different compared to using some tech, right? It is true everywhere in the world, actually. It's not, India is not an exception to that. And I'm sure these issues in Paytm must also be there in other fintech firms, like other fintech firms, including some NBFC. I won't be surprised if these issues do exist even other NBFC that are heavily using technology. Question is a blanket ban solution for that, or are there other solutions also? Very unclear. Very it's a good question. And do we know actually the consequence of having a blanket ban, right? What are the consequences of it, right? It's not just the Paytm or Paytm shareholder, it has other repercussions also. Has RBI given due consideration to that or not is unclear, right? So the thing is that compliance issue in Europe, right, in European banks, what happens is that you always get fined, right? The regulator will fine you. It has never happened unless it is an insanely big issue. At least in my view, there haven't been many, except for Wirecard in Germany. There's just one instance, but that was a big fraud, right? Which was completely different case. In compliance issues, you get fines from the regulators. It can be a small fine, it can be a big fine, right? RBI gave 5 crore fine to Paytm, I think last year, right? It should have given 50 crore or 500 crore, even 1,000 crore. That so RBI could have increased just the fine, right? But totally banning it is, I'm not sure if that is the right thing to do. Question is, was there an ultimatum, right? When you talk to regulator, they will tell you that, okay, if you don't comply with these things by such date, we will ban you, right? And that is like 5, 6, 8 months, 1 year even in advance. I'm not sure if that was that sort of a warning was given, that ultimatum warning. I don't think that was there. Again, materiality of the issue. It is unclear to the public as to whether these issues were material or they were just some issues, because compliance issue will always be there, right? The fact that the demonetization in India wasn't very successful, it only indicates that KIC use is always there. Because what happened in demonetization? People who had black money in cash, right? They were successfully able to transfer that into the formal financial system, right? They were able to deposit that money properly. So and that's RBI's report, by the way. It has come from RBI that demonetization wasn't very successful because the black money really came to the formal financial system. That means the KYC process in these big banks, HDFC Bank, SBI, or whether it's public sector bank, private sector bank, it's not good enough, right? Something is wrong. So RBI acknowledge that. So it's nothing new actually. It's just that you have found it very easily in a fintech firm, because the data actually says so. But what's going on in physical branches, nobody knows. And if you do a proper investigation into that, you will find several issues, right? Doing a complete ban is too severe in my view. It's a question mark. Another thing is that many regulators in the world, they have separate rules for fintechs. They have separate teams for fintechs. ECB has got, so has Bank of England, but it's not the case in RBI. So it's also a mistake of RBI that why RBI hasn't created separate rules for the fintechs, or the in the payment banks, banks which are not, these are internet banks, right? Why are we using the same rules that are used for brick and mortar banks to these internet banks? Question mark. And why not take step by step action? Again, why not give a fine couple of times and give more time, right? Compliance projects in big banks, those who have got so much of money and even resources, even they take years to comply with this requirement. Some people say, RBI had given some warning 6 months back, but it's 6 month good enough time? I'm not sure. Is 1 year even good enough time? I'm not sure. It does really take a couple of years time, and then that's important. Yeah. So can Paytm go for a legal route, right? Whether it will go or not, it's a different thing. In a country like India, if you take action against, if you go against the regulator, you probably will never survive, right? So will Paytm take chances to sort of go ahead with fighting a case against Paytm, right? That against RBI. So that's easier said than done. I mean, it's a very big risk actually. In developed countries, things have happened. People have sued the regulator, and it is quite possible actually. But if Paytm has made so many mistakes, I'm not sure if they will be willing to go ahead with this or not. But nobody knows actually, because it's unclear as to what their mistakes were, right? There was some rumor about the China link. I don't think there is any evidence for that. Saying that there was some money laundering, some KYC issue is a plain nonsense. I mean, every bank has some KYC issues, but is it material enough? So the materiality is a question mark that none of the analysts asked the RBI governor when he was asked questions related to the Paytm, right? So why the RBI is reluctant to share the materiality of it, right? How severe it is, and there are guidelines to assess severity of an issue. This is a very common practice in the banking world. So why not clarify this to the people, right? People are having a lot of fun that, okay, this company was somewhat close to the government for some time, and now we see it is suffering. So people are enjoying that process. But what people don't know is that the signal that goes out of this action is that it's not safe to invest money in regulated companies in India. That is the message. The private funding or the external funding is already drying up in India. If you see, for the last 18 months, things have been very, very bad in India, right? You hardly see any investment, external investment coming to India. Now with Paytm, I think it's I don't think there will be much money coming to India for investment in fintechs, at least, or any regulated entities for that matter, because it seems that it is not just the issues with this company, but there are also bureaucratic hurdles that can really kill a company in daytime, right? If a bureaucrat is not happy, you do not say namaste or sure to him, or a minister, and it's a regulated industry, then he can literally go ahead and kill your company, finding some issues, sending some agencies for investigation. So all that can happen in India. It has happened in the past also. I think We have seen that, but RBI has always been a very great organization, so I have a lot of trust on that. It has done a good job in the past, so I'm quite hopeful that they will take corrective actions. I'm also quite hopeful that they will, they will reconsider some of the, some of the actions they have taken. I think the communication is also very bad. You should not simply put something on your Twitter handle and that's how people will perceive things. It needs to be more clear, right? It should be a detailed document rather than some, couple of bullet points. I think that really doesn't that really is not a good way to communicate such an important matter. Anyway, just wanted to share my view on this. I think it doesn't matter really, what Paytm does. I think, but banking organizations can indeed, file a case against the regulator. So that's the message I wanted to share with you. Let me know what your views are. You may have disagreement on the views I have shared, and I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Thanks.